Being a Bond fan, I have to admit there are some films that don't compete with the rest. While my favorite films have great plots, well-developed characters, and believable actors, there are some Bond movies I'd rather not watch. Today I'm going to be ranking my 5 least favorite Bond movies, ending with my least favorite James Bond movie of all time. There will be spoilers. Number 5. Live and Let Die. Live and Let Die was Roger Moore's first Bond film. Although I love Roger Moore, I didn't enjoy this movie's plot. The villain's plan was too minor to be the center of a Bond film. Bond attempts to take down Dr. Kananga, also known as Mr. Big, the head of a major heroin operation. Kananga plans to create heroin addicts by distributing the substance at his chain of restaurants. Although substance abuse is a very serious and very real problem, it just doesn't create the tension needed for a Bond film. This villainous plan would take months, if not years, to be carried out. This plot just didn't create the urgency needed for a Bond intervention. It seems a number of different agencies could handle this type of problem. Maybe a sign of the times, but this movie misrepresented an entire culture. They projected stereotypes onto people of color in this movie. Even though San Monique is a fictional land and I haven't done much research on Caribbean culture, it just felt wrong that they represented an entire group of people as easily misled idiots. Furthermore, it was a little ridiculous that all of the villains were black, while Bond, the good guy, is white. I'm glad that the franchise has seemed to move away from this misrepresentation and gives better roles to all characters. Number 4. License to Kill. License to Kill was released in 1989, 1 year after the release of Die Hard. In addition to competing with similar action films, there were also a number of great movies released at the same time, specifically Batman and Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, which both have great action sequences. This meant that Bond had to step up its game, because previously it had little competition. It seems that the Bond franchise decided to make the film even grittier and more violent than the first Dalton movie. But it just didn't work for a Bond film, and it nearly killed the series. This movie has Bond at odds with another drug lord, Franz Sanchez. Sanchez is a killer with absolutely no respect for human life. He kills his mistress Lupe's lover by cutting his heart out. He beats Lupe with his pet iguana. He kills Felix Leiter's wife on their wedding day and lowers the captured Leiter into a shark-infested tank to have his leg torn off. Sanchez, thinking he was betrayed by his henchman Milton Crest, blows the man up in a decompression chamber. Lastly, henchman Dario is chewed up in a shredding machine. Even though License to Kill had a PG-13 rating, I felt it was too gory for a Bond movie, which hardly ever shows blood. I have come to appreciate this type of grittiness in Daniel Craig's Bond as the world of cinema as a whole has transitioned to be darker and more realistic. But at the time of this movie and the time within the Bond franchise, this seemed like too much. Number 3. Die Another Day. Where License to Kill overdid violence, Die Another Day overdid gadgets. After the technology craze of the 90s, this 2002 movie seemed obsessed with gadgets, just short of becoming an Inspector Gadget movie. This scene shows Bond in an invisible car using thermal tracking to escape from the villain. It's just way too corny for a Bond movie, and yes, that includes a series which has 7 Roger Moore movies. Another awful scene in this movie is when Bond is seen using his parachute to surf on a tsunami. What were they thinking when they wrote this scene? And why was this part of his vehicle perfectly shaped as a surfboard? Like I said, they took the gadgets too far. Roger Moore's corniness often worked to enhance the plot and offer good comic relief. However, the gadgets in this movie were placed haphazardly without much thought given to the plot. The villain in this movie, Tan Sun Moon, changes his appearance after his fake death, and creates the identity of Gustav Graves. It reminds me of a Blofeld scheme from Diamonds Are Forever, except more modern, using genetics and without body doubles. I didn't appreciate the idea of facial transformation in either movie. It seems cheap and unintimidating that these characters would need to assume a different identity to carry out their villainous plans. Just be your bat self. And a lot like the diamond-powered laser in Diamonds Are Forever, Graves plans to build a diamond-powered solar energy device, basically a laser, to reunite North and South Korea. I feel like Moon learned about Blofeld in a Korean newspaper and decided to copy his ideas. The overuse of gadgets and weak villain in this movie led to the end of the Brosnan era. I've seen many people list this as their least favorite Bond film, and while I don't like it, I don't think it's the worst. Number 2. The Man with the Golden Gun. Roger Moore seemed like he was trying to act like Sean Connery's Bond in this movie. He ditched his usual campiness for a more serious tone. There's one scene in particular where he meets Andrea Anders and questions her about Francisco Scaramanga's location. When she doesn't tell him, he slaps her and twists her arm, treating her roughly. Although this was common in Connery films, this is the only film where Moore hits a woman. I'm glad you don't see this in James Bond films anymore. Moore's Bond usually seems to care about women, even though Bond's character sleeps around. In this scene, however, he has MI6 operative Mary Goodnight first hide under the covers while he has a conversation with Andrea, and later has her hide in the closet while him and Andrea have sex. He then tells her, "Your turn will come, I promise," which is a rather patronizing and misogynistic statement, reminiscent of Connery. I felt the way he treated women in this movie was out of character for Moore's Bond. Finally, I didn't appreciate Mary Goodnight's undercover identity as an idiot. I'm sure there was a better character they could have given her. They must have recognized the mistakes they made with the female characters in this film because the character of Anya Amasova in the next movie, The Spy Who Loved Me, is one of the best in the series. Furthermore, the storyline could have been better. There were too many unanswered questions and unnecessary parts. Bond is on a mission to find Gibson, a scientist who invented the Silux agitator, which is a solution for the energy crisis. However, when MI6 receives a golden bullet with 007 engraved in it, Bond is relieved from the mission. He sets out to discover the person who threatened him and realizes that Gibson is an intended victim. When Gibson is murdered, Bond is sent to retrieve the Silux agitator. Gibson's serendipitous murder while Bond is looking for Scaramanga is too contrived. Relieving him from his duty seems unnecessary when he ultimately ends up back on the original mission. In addition, Bond, a deadly secret agent, would have many enemies all around the globe, and consequently many people that would want him dead. So why would Bond be so concerned about one death threat in particular? We then discover that Andrea Anders was the one who sent MI6 the bullet to pressure Bond into killing Scaramanga. This ruined an already weak plot. Scaramanga admired Bond, to the point of emulation, until Bond got involved in retrieving the Silux agitator. Lastly, it seemed too many characters in this film were aware that Bond was a 00 agent. Wouldn't that blow his cover? Roger Moore's out-of-character portrayal of Bond, the female characters, and an interesting plot made this one of the worst Bond movies. Number 1. Diamonds Are Forever. I just recently made a full review on this film, so if you are interested in my reasoning why this is the worst Bond film in history, click on the link below. But for a quick summary, I will say that this film had the worst Blofeld and worst plot in all of the series, and it also missed a major opportunity by not using Tracy's death in on Her Majesty's Secret Service as Bond's motivation to find Blofeld. Like I said, check out my review for a more detailed explanation. So there you have it, these are what I consider to be the worst Bond films. I want to know what you think. What movies do you think are the worst? Did I name any of your favorite movies? Leave a comment below and let me know.